Hi guys, welcome back to my secret life. Today I'm going to be talking about languages at university. If you don't know, I am a language student at university. I study French and Spanish as part of my degree, and then I did Japanese as an evening class in my first year. So really the reason why I wanted to make these videos is because I don't see a lot of talk about languages at university, on YouTube at least, and I know when I was looking up things for my first year that I've just finished, I really wanted to find some things about people who had already done my course or done a course similar to me, and so I could understand a little bit more about what it was going to be like before I jumped straight in and did it. Unfortunately for me there was not much, so I went in a little bit blind, but this is why I thought, to help other people who may be thinking about going into languages, I'm going to do these types of videos. So if you do have any questions, any comments, please leave them down below and I will try to answer them all. Okay, so the first question obviously is what actually is happening with languages at university. What do you do? How are the classes set out? And honestly, we have classes rather than lectures because languages is a much more interactive degree than other subjects. Other subjects you have to sit in a giant lecture hall and write down what the person is telling you, what the lecturer is telling you. But with languages we need smaller class sizes, so my classes have never gotten bigger than about 25 people, and we all interact a lot more in the language, and depending on your level, your classes might be entirely in your target language, or they might start off in your native language, or in English in this case. We have a much more interactive based class because there is less of us, and obviously for languages you need to speak more in the language that you are trying to learn, because that's the only way you're going to be able to learn. And so you'll either speak in English or in the native language of your country that you're studying in, and then progress on to your target language in classes, or you'll start straight from the target language. In my classes I started an intensive initial class, so an ab initio in Spanish, and then I was doing higher intermediate in French after an A-level in French. So in my French class I was speaking entirely in French from the first lesson, whereas in Spanish we kind of did a lot of reading, did a lot of cultural information first, and really tried to get to grips with the tenses and some vocabulary, and then we progressed more onto speaking within the language. Also with your languages you'll have tutorials. At least in my case I had tutorials where once a week we learn about something general in the languages and linguistics department, which is more of a lecture style, and then the second time in the week which we gather, there will only be a small group of us. There was about 7 of us in our class, and it's a small tutorial where you speak primarily in the language that you're majoring in, so the one that you are definitely going to become relatively fluent in. If you want the CEFR rating, is going to be a C1 to C2 in after your years at university, and that lesson is for 1 to 2 hours, and it is entirely in the language that you are majoring in, whether that is an ab initio language, so a language you started from scratch, or one that you've previously learned before. Obviously with languages, as with any other type of degree, you'll have assignments, you'll have exams, you'll have everything like that. Most of them are in class, which is quite nice, so it's not too different from your GCSE and your A-level if you are studying those. We have speaking tests. I know it's horrible. We have presentations and partner presentations, which means you give a presentation on your own to the class on a topic surrounding your language. And you have partner presentations, which means you and a partner in your class give your presentation. I had mine with Gavin, my friend, and we did Ratatouille in French. There's also them in the ab initio classes as well as the higher intermediate classes, so you really have to get to grips with the language quite quickly. But it's nothing to worry about. They don't have majorly high expectations for you if you've only just started the language 3 weeks ago and you're doing already an in-class assessment, which is like a speaking test or a writing test, vocabulary test, conjugation test. They're small tests that you just do to track your learning basically. At the end of the year you'll have an exam. This year it was a bit weird because of COVID, so we did all of ours online. But you'll have an exam and it's usually 1 or 2 hours long depending on the type of content that you need and how high your level is of the class. And basically you'll have that and it'll be like writing, grammar, and then on your higher level classes, so for example my higher intermediate French, I had a book that I had to study which was called La Nuit des Brutes. So we had a book to study which we had to answer questions on in the exam, much like if you're doing the new A-level spec with your book and your film. It's very similar to that. Along with all of these things, at the start of each year you'll have a placement test, which really isn't a pass or fail. It's more of letting you know what place you need to go to. So for example, this past year, this was my first year that I've just completed, I had a placement test in French because I was going into something that was an ab initio, and so I was meant to go on to advanced French because I did an A-level, but because of my placement test I actually went 1 down into higher intermediate. So it's really just to find the best place that you fit in your university so you can get the most out of it, and then you can achieve your firsts and your 2-1s that you really want. Other than that, I think that's really all that I have to cover for the lesson side of it and the exams. Now I'm going to go on to some questions that I got asked on my Instagram stories. If you don't follow me, my Instagram is polyglotstudy with an extra Y on the end. So please do follow me to check any updates for when I'm posting on YouTube, as well as any questions you want to ask and things like that. It's a really great way because then everything is in one place and then I can be sure to answer them all. So without further ado, let's get on to the questions. So the first thing I got asked is, do you get a lot of speaking practice? And as I said, in the higher up classes, all of your class is in the target language, which is quite daunting at first, but you really do get used to it very quickly, so I wouldn't worry about it at all. And along with every class you have speaking tests, and you can meet up with your lecturers in their office hours to do some speaking practice, and you speak a lot in the language to your other students as well. I know that with us, with our group, even if we saw each other on the street, we would most likely speak in the language we were trying to learn, because we were so happy that we started learning vocabulary and we knew sentence structures and things like that. So you do really get a lot of practice. The next question is, how much harder is it compared to A-levels? Now, I think it is only a little bit harder. The jump from GCSE to A-level is so high. It's astronomical. Yeah, it's so high, but I think from A-level to degree it's a little bit less, but you really have to be quick on your workload, because that workload can really creep up on you and you just have to be so on it. Like, you feel like you constantly have deadlines, but it's actually like really okay. I would say that in terms of difficulty, it is not much different. It does get a little bit harder, but it's not like so much harder that you can really notice it. But I would say in terms of workload, you have so much to do and so much wider reading and so much to learn in terms of vocabulary and everything else, that it's just so much harder to get everything done before the deadlines. You just feel like you constantly have deadlines. That's all I'm saying. I wouldn't worry. I honestly wouldn't worry. I feel like at the end of the day, if you can get through A-levels, especially this new spec A-levels, then you can get through life. Like, you can get through anything. The next question is, how much required reading do you actually have to do? Now, this is the godsend of doing languages at university. There's really no required reading in terms of books. So for books, last year I read one book, and that was La Nuit des Brutes, and that was because in higher intermediate French I had to study it as part of my exam, and that was it. That was the only book that I actually had to read. But there is a but. You get textbooks and grammar books and question books and stuff like that, workbooks, that you have to do like questions from, and you have to show that you understand this grammar point or this conjugation, or you get little vocab tests and stuff. So in terms of actually sitting down and having to read, it's really very minimal. But to compensate for the lack of reading, you have to learn a lot on your own. You have to do self-study a lot, which is not too different from like A-level and GCSE, you know, when you have to just sit down and like remember your conjugations and remember stuff like that. But I'm just making you aware that in terms of reading, there's not too much, but then in terms of actually applying what you're learning, there is quite a bit. As well, I had to watch 4 movies as part of my tutorial because I had to make a podcast in French, because French is my major language, as one of my assignments. So there will be movies that you have to watch as well, which, I mean, I don't think that is too bad, really. Like, oh, a degree is making me watch a film in my spare time. Like, that's not that bad. And the films aren't bad either. Not in my experience, at least. So, I wouldn't say there's a lot, especially not compared to something like history or English or law or something like that. There's really nothing. All we get is textbooks and workbooks, and you just have to do questions from those and really understand your conjugations, your vocab, and your grammar structures and things like that. Now, this last one is a question, and it says studying abroad, question mark. And I didn't want to leave this out because I didn't want you to feel like I was ignoring you completely, but I actually haven't gone on my abroad year yet, so I don't feel like I'm qualified to talk about this. But if you do have any questions about studying abroad, let me know in the comments below or on my Instagram at polyglotstudy with a little Y on the end, an extra Y, and I will try to answer them all by asking my friends who actually have been on their study abroad year. My study abroad year is from 2021 to 22, so you will definitely see videos come out when I do that, and you will see videos about my study abroad year, but I just don't feel qualified to talk about it yet because I haven't done it yet. However, I can say that on study abroad year, it's really, some degrees let you have a study abroad year and some degrees don't. You need to look for the degrees that have the little brackets that says with abroad year, with placement year, something like that. If you take a placement year, it can be in or out of the UK, so just be aware of that. But if you take a year abroad, then it will be in the target language of the language that you're majoring in, or the one that you're highest in currently. So because I'm in the same level for Spanish and French in my year 2, I will be going on to either do an abroad year in Spain or in France. I get to pick which one, and there are various universities that I can go to within the countries, or I could go to a French speaking country or a Spanish speaking country, so I don't even have to go to Spain or France. And you have to apply for the university there, see if they let you in, or you can do a work placement there for some degrees. So you need to talk to the lecturers and talk to the module directors and things like that to see if you are allowed to do a work placement. But reality is that some people could do work placements on some degrees, and that means teaching English as a foreign language in a country, or working with Doctors Without Borders or something like that. So there really is a wide scope of what you can do, but like I said, I don't feel like I'm qualified to actually talk about study abroad years other than the general information, because I haven't gone on it yet, so I don't know the entire experience. But as soon as I do, and as I do, you will definitely be getting videos of me on my abroad year. And that is it for my video today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful to you. If you would like any more questions answered, again, please leave them in the comments below, or DM me on Instagram. The link is in the bio, as well as all of my other social media. And yeah, I will see you guys later. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you are feeling lovely. And yeah, I will see you in my next video.